What if the hand you were dealt is a profound distraction? What if the lines, the creases, the marks you've been taught to search for on your skin are nothing but a map to a land of superstition designed to keep you from seeing the only mark that matters? This mark is invisible. It is not given to you. It must be earned. It is not a sign of your fate, but the evidence of your character. And by the end of our time together, you will understand exactly what this mark is, why it is the only source of true power, and how to begin forging it, one choice at a time. Before we proceed, a moment of clarity. What follows is a philosophical framework for building a resilient and purposeful life. It is grounded in the ancient teachings of the Stoics, offered here as a tool for self-reflection. This is not medical advice, therapy, or financial guidance. The path of philosophy is one of rigorous self-examination, and I invite you to consider these ideas, test them against your own reason, and consult qualified professionals for the specific challenges of your life. We are here to explore principles, not to prescribe outcomes. There is a deep and ancient human hunger to be chosen, to feel that our lives are not random, that our suffering in particular has a purpose stitched into it from the beginning. We search for this confirmation everywhere. We look to the stars, to sacred texts, to the words of self-proclaimed gurus, and even, it seems, to the palms of our hands. We are told that a rare crosshatch, a mystic cross, might be hiding between the line of logic and the line of emotion, a physical seal proving we are special, that we are messengers, that our early life chaos was not a tragedy, but an initiation. This is perhaps the most seductive trap in the world. It is the belief that our value is an external fact, a destiny we discover rather than a character we build. It makes us passive. We wait for the message to arrive. We wait for our purpose to be revealed. We look at our hands hoping to see the proof that we are strong, intuitive, or destined for greatness instead of doing the work to become strong, intuitive, and great. The Stoic philosophers, from the slave Epictetus to the emperor Marcus Aurelius, saw this trap with terrifying clarity. They offered a different path, a path that moves the locus of control from the external, from marks on the skin, from the opinions of others, from the events of our lives, to the internal. They gave us a razor, a surgical tool to separate what is truly ours from what is not. This tool is the first and most important principle of a resilient life, the dichotomy of control. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship in a violent storm. The source of our anxiety, the mystic's path, is to spend our time trying to read the pattern of the waves, believing that if we could just interpret the message in the chaos, we would be safe. We would look for signs in the lightning, in the color of the clouds, in the creases on our palms, desperately seeking a guarantee of our ship's survival. The Stoic, standing on the same deck, knows this is madness. The Stoic understands what is not mine: the storm, the wind, the height of the waves, the integrity of the ship's hull, and whether we reach the shore. These are external to our will. Obsessing over them, trying to find a purpose in them, is a waste of our limited energy. What then is mine? My response. My choice to do my duty, to check the rigging, to steer the rudder with a firm hand, to comfort a frightened passenger, to face the storm with courage and clarity, regardless of the outcome, to live and die well. This is the first cut. The lines on your left hand are in the same category as the storm. They are indifferent. Your genetics, your past, the family you were born into, the chaos of your youth, the close brushes with death. These are all raw material. They are indifference. They are not good and they are not bad. They are simply what is. What is good or bad, only your response to them. This is the great liberation. The feeling of being different that so many describe is not a mystical marking. It is the first faint stirring of reason waking up. It is the beginning of the soul's realization that the script given to it by culture, you must be rich, you must be beautiful, you must be chosen, is a fiction. This feeling of not belonging is not a sign that you are a wounded healer. It is a sign that you are ready to stop being a character in someone else's play and to start becoming the author of your own judgments. So, if the mark is not on the hand, where is it? The ancient Stoics had a word for this. It is the most important word in their philosophy, proheresis. It is often translated as choice, volition, or moral character. But it is more than that. It is your ruling faculty. It is the internal fortress where you actually live. It is the only thing that is truly unshakably yours. Think of it this: your body is not you. It can be sick or injured or bound in chains as Epictetus was. Your reputation is not you. It can be slandered by fools. Your wealth is not you. It can be lost in an instant. Your judgments, your principles, your will to act virtuously, that is you. That is your proheresis. The mark we are looking for is not a cross of skin. It is the shape of a well-trained proheresis. It is the invisible architecture of a character forged in the fires of reality. It is a mark on the soul, carved not by fate, but by a lifetime of deliberate conscious choices. This is not a metaphor. It is a psychological reality. Every time you face an indifferent, a traffic jam, an insult, a diagnosis, a close call with death, you're at a crossroads. You can react with fear, anger, self-pity, or superstition. Or you can respond with reason, courage, patience, and clarity. In that moment of response, you are carving the mark. You are reinforcing the walls of your inner citadel. The mystic looks at his hand and says, "This X proves I am intuitive." The Stoic looks at a difficult situation and says, "This is an opportunity to practice my intuition, to separate what is true from what is merely frightening." The mystic seeks proof. The Stoic seeks practice. This is why the lives of those who later build this mark are so often filled with chaos. The source material is correct in its observation, but wrong in its conclusion. The chaos is not a spiritual initiation from an outside force. The chaos is the gymnasium. It is the forge. Fate does not send us pain to make us strong. Fate sends us pain, and we have the choice to use that pain as fuel to become strong. The wounded healer is not a person marked from birth. It is a person who, after years of making poor judgments about their own wounds, finally learned to make good ones. This brings us to the first of three paths, the path of the preventable downfall. Consider Mark, not a mark on the hand, but a man named Mark. Mark is the CEO of a successful startup. He is brilliant, driven, and utterly convinced he is a chosen one. He believes in manifestation and destiny. He sees every successful quarter, every glowing press article, as proof of his special status. His early life chaos was a chip on his shoulder that drove him to succeed, to prove everyone wrong. He looks at his life as a narrative of destiny. His entire identity is built on these externals: his title, his company's valuation, his reputation, the envy of its peers. These are his mystic cross. They are the physical signs he points to as evidence of his worth. Then an economic downturn. A competitor releases a superior product. The market shifts. The indifference of the cosmos, which do not care about Mark's sense of destiny, arrive like a storm. His company's valuation plummets. The press turns critical. His board, once his greatest allies, fires him. Mark is not just ruined financially, he is annihilated psychologically. Why? Because his proheresis, his inner citadel, was never built. It was an empty shell decorated with the wallpaper of external achievement. When the storm came, it wasn't just his house that was destroyed. He was destroyed. He had mistaken the indifference, his job, his money, for himself. He had spent his entire life polishing a mark that was never his to begin with. He was, as Seneca would say, a slave to many masters. And in the end, they all abandoned him. This is the danger of the mystic's path. It teaches you to build your house on the sand of externals. The Stoic path teaches you to build on the bedrock of your internal choices. So, how do we build this fortress? How do we carve this true internal mark? We begin by understanding the bridge, the source material identified. It claimed the mystic cross was a bridge between the headline, logic, and the heartline, the emotion. This is a beautiful, if flawed, analogy. The real bridge, the real space where all human freedom exists, is the tiny gap between stimulus and response. An event happens. That is the stimulus. Your boss criticizes you. You get a flat tire. Someone cuts you in line. This is the raw data. It is indifferent. Then, before you feel anger or fear or self-pity, your mind makes a judgment, a first impression, as Epictetus called it. It says, "This is bad. This is an insult. My day is ruined." It is this judgment, not the event itself, that creates the emotion. The event did not make you angry. Your judgment that the event was an injustice made you angry. The true bridge is the discipline of inspecting, that judgment before you assent to it. The untrained mind, the one looking for mystic crosses, is fused with its judgments. Stimulus and response are one and the same. The insult is the anger. The diagnosis is the despair. The trained mind, the mind of the developing Stoic, learns to create space on that bridge. The event happens. The first impression, "This is terrible," arises, and the Stoic stops. He pauses. He challenges that impression. He asks, "Is this event truly under my control? No. Is my judgment about it under my control? Yes. Is this terrible, or is it simply inconvenient? Is it a disaster, or is it an opportunity to practice patience, to practice courage, to practice forgiveness?" The mark of the Stoic is not a cross. It is a pause. It is the mark of a mind that refuses to be a slave to its own first impressions. This is why the source material's focus on intuition is so close, and yet so far. It claims the marked person is highly intuitive and resistant to illusions. This is correct, but not for mystical reasons. A Stoic is highly intuitive. Their intuition is not a feeling or a prophetic vision. It is a highly trained rational faculty that has practiced thousands and thousands of times, discerning what is true, virtue is the only good, from what is illusion, everything else. A Stoic is resistant to illusions, not because they were marked from birth, but because they have trained themselves to see the illusions of wealth, status, and reputation for what they are. Preferred indifference. Nice to have, but ultimately weightless when measured against the gravity of one's own character. One of the most powerful tools for forging this discernment is what the Stoics called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is the opposite of the mystic's belief in a protecting force. The mystic walks away from a near miss thinking, something was protecting me. This implies a special status, a guarantee of safety. The Stoic, by contrast, actively imagines the near miss not missing. He imagines the car crash happening. He imagines the illness arriving. He imagines the loss of his job, his home, his loved ones. This is not pessimism. It is inoculation. It is training. The mystic, when the actual tragedy strikes, is shattered. His protecting force failed. His destiny betrayed him. He is left with nothing. The Stoic, when tragedy strikes, is prepared. He has already lived it in his mind. He has already practiced his response. He has already reminded himself, this event is external. It is an indifferent. It does not touch my proheresis. It cannot make me a bad person. My response is all that matters. This is the time for courage. This is the time for endurance. This is the time for justice. He hopes for the best, but he prepares for everything. This preparation is the mark. This brings us to our second story, the delayed awakening. This is the reframing of the wounded healer. Let us consider Elena. Elena's life has been defined by the very chaos the source material describes. A difficult childhood, chronic illness, a series of painful relationships. For decades, she felt marked, but not for greatness. She felt cursed. She was the wounded healer. But her wounds weren't healing anyone. They were just wounds. She searched desperately for a meaning to it all. She read every spiritual book, went to every retreat, and yes, she even studied her own palm, looking for that mystic cross. She needed to believe her suffering was an initiation, because if it wasn't, then it was just meaningless pain. This search was her prison. It kept her passive, waiting for a purpose to be given to her. Her awakening was not a gentle spiritual unfolding. It was a collapse, a moment of profound despair, a dark night of the soul, where she finally realized that no one was coming to tell her the secret. The universe was not going to send her a message. The lines on her hand were just skin. In that void, she found a copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, and she read a line that acted as a scalpel to her soul. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. She read it again. What stands in the way becomes the way. In that moment, her entire life refocused. The initiation was not the pain she had been given. The initiation was the choice she had yet to make. The choice was to stop seeing her wounds as her identity and to start seeing them as raw material. Her chronic illness, it was no longer a curse. It was a gymnasium for practicing patience and courage every single day. Her painful past, it was no longer a trauma that defined her. It was a library of lessons on bad judgments, her own and others, that she could now study to learn good judgment. Elena stopped waiting to be a wounded healer and started the work of healing her own judgments. She stopped looking for a mission and created one, to live this one difficult day with as much virtue as she could muster. This is the true bridge. It is the moment you stop interpreting your life story and start taking responsibility for the authorship of your response. This is the integration the mystics crave. It is not the integration of head and heart. It is the integration of your entire life. The good, the bad, the chaotic, the painful, into the single unified purpose of living virtuously right now. This leads to the pinnacle of Stoic practice, the concept that truly seals the mark of character, amor fati, the love of fate. This is a radical idea. The mystic path teaches you to endure your past, believing it prepared you. It suggests your hardships were a price you paid for a future purpose. Amor fati goes infinitely further. It is not just acceptance of your past. It is not endurance. It is love. It is the ability to look back at everything that has happened to you, the chaos, the near misses, the deep wounds, the betrayals, and say with a full heart, I would not have it any other way. Why? Not because it was meant to be in some grand pre-written cosmic play, but because that specific, chaotic, painful sequence of events was the only forge that could have created the person I am today. And the person I am today, the one who is aware, who is training, who is striving to be virtuous, is the only person I want to be. To love your fate is to understand that the exact raw material you were given, no matter how ugly or sharp, was the perfect raw material to practice your virtue. You needed that specific obstacle to practice that specific form of courage. You needed that specific injustice to practice that specific form of forgiveness. This is the ultimate integration. It closes the loop. It means nothing was wasted. Every second of your delay, every detour, every hardship was not a preparation for a mission. It was the mission. The mission was always simply to respond well. The person who achieves this has the true mark. It is a seal of their own making. They are no longer at war with their past. They are not waiting for their future. They are fully, powerfully present, using everything that happens as fuel for the fire of their prohairesis. This mark is not forged in a single revelation. It is built through small, daily, relentless practice. This is the architecture of character. If you wish to build it, you do not look at your hand. You look at your ledger. The tool for this is the Stoic Journal, or the Evening Review. At the end of his day, Seneca would ask himself 3 questions. What bad habit did I check today? What virtue did I practice? What did I do well, and where did I fall short? This is the real, please, palm reading. You are reading the actions of your day. You are inscribing the mark on your own soul. When you write, today I was insulted and I chose not to retaliate, you are carving the mark of temperance. When you write, today I was afraid to speak up, but I did so anyway because it was right, you are carving the mark of courage. When you write, today I judged someone harshly and I was wrong, you are carving the mark of wisdom and humility. A mystic looks for a sign that is 1 in a million. A Stoic builds a character that is one in a million through a million small virtuous choices. This brings us to our final story, the credible transformation. This is the path that is available to all of us right now. This is David. David is not a CEO. He is not a wounded healer. He is a graphic designer. He is a father. He is, by all accounts, perfectly normal. He is anxious. He worries about money. He gets into petty arguments. He feels most days completely unmarked by greatness. He just feels stressed. He stumbles upon Stoicism, not looking for a calling, but just looking for a way to not yell at his kids when he's had a bad day at work. He starts with the tiniest acts of practice. He starts with the dichotomy of control. He is stuck in traffic, a classic indifferent. His first impression is, this is a disaster. I'm going to be late. My boss will be angry. This is terrible. He pauses. He breathes. He applies the razor. Is the traffic in my control? No. Is my judgment about it in my control? Yes. Is my behavior in the car in my control? Yes. So he chooses differently. He accepts the traffic. It is. He decides to use the time to listen to a podcast or to simply think. He chooses to arrive at work whenever he arrives, calmly, and apologize once for his tardiness, rather than arriving in a rage and ruining his morning. This is not prophetic. It is not mystical. It is work. He does this again and again and again. He uses the evening review. Today, I felt the anger rising in traffic and I chose calm. He practices with his children. His daughter spills milk. The stimulus, his first judgment. This is a mess. Why is she so careless? He pauses. Is the spilled milk in my control? No, it is done. Is her intent in my control? No. Is my response in my control? Yes. What is the virtuous response here? Patience, justice, teaching. He unclenches his jaw. He looks at his daughter's frightened face, and he says, "That's okay. Let's get a towel and clean it up together." This is the mark. This choice is the mystic cross. This is the true bridge between logic and emotion, forged by discipline. Over years, David is transformed, not into a messenger, not into a chosen one. He is transformed into a good man, a reliable colleague, a calm father, a present husband. People around him don't see a mark on his hand. They feel the presence of his character. They feel his resilience. They notice that he doesn't get rattled by bad news. They notice he listens without judgment. He acts with purpose. His life has become the message. The message is not "I'm special." The message is, it is possible to be calm. It is possible to be kind. It is possible to be strong. He is the integrator the source material was grasping for. He has integrated his principles into his actions. His life is no longer a civil war between his head and his heart. It is a unified cosmos ruled by his proheresis. So, we return to the beginning. We return to the hand. The lines on your palm are geography. They are a map of skin. They are indifferent. To look for your purpose, there is to look for the ocean in a glass of water. You are marked. We all are, but not by fate. You are marked by your habits. You are marked by your judgments. You are marked by the principles you choose to live by. The true chosen one is not the person selected by the cosmos for a special destiny. The true chosen one is the person who chooses the cosmos. the one who chooses to live in accordance with logos, with reason, with nature, the one who chooses to see the entire world as their gymnasium, their forge, their field of practice. The mission, then, is not a medal you are given. It is, as the source rightly noted, a responsibility. It is the responsibility to take the raw material of your one wild, chaotic, and precious life and forge from it a character of strength, wisdom, justice, and courage. That chaos you survived, it was not an initiation. It was your curriculum. That feeling of being different, it was not a sign. It was an invitation to think for yourself. That mark you've been looking for, it is not on you. It is in you. It is your proheresis. It is your choice. The only question left is the one the source material asked, and the one the Stoics ask every single day. Now that you know, what will you do with what you've been shown? What will you do with what you control? The mark of your character is not yet finished. You are carving it right now with the very next choice you make. Now that we understand what this mark is, the proheresis, and where it is built, in the gap between stimulus and response, our work is not over. It has just begun. The next chapter in this journey is to master the resources that allow us to do this work effectively. We must examine the scaffolding of our daily lives. This work requires energy, it requires focus, and above all, it requires time. And so, we must next turn our philosophical lens to the most precious indifferent of all and ask, what is a Stoic understanding of time? How do we stop spending it and start investing it in the only thing that truly matters?